It started with one document. A crisp white envelope slid under Jasmine Washington's apartment door early Monday morning. No name. No return address, only the words "private results enclosed." She thought it was another court notice, maybe something from Kirk's lawyers again. But when she opened it, her hands began to shake. Inside was a DNA report, stamped by an Atlanta testing lab. And at the top of the page right under her name was another that made her heart stop. Young Jock Robinson. Jasmine's eyes darted over the details, her breath shallow. The paper claimed a 99.8% familial match. Not paternity. Not maternity. A direct blood connection. Within hours, the internet caught fire. Gossip blogs ran with headlines like "DNA bombshell ties Jasmine to Jock's family." And fans flooded timelines with theories. Some said it explained why Jock had always defended her when the Kirk situation exploded years ago. Others whispered that this connection could expose something the Frost family had been hiding all along. By noon, hashtags like #JasmineBloodline and #JOCDNA were trending across Atlanta. People started digging. Old photos resurfaced, shots of Jasmine and Jock at a mutual friend's birthday party, smiling, unaware that one day the world would question their entire history. One clip from years back suddenly went viral again, Jock joking during a reunion taping, saying, "Maybe Jasmine's family tree got some roots near mine." What had once been a throwaway line now sounded like a confession. Kirk Frost, who had managed to stay quiet through a dozen scandals, was caught off guard. Cameras spotted him pacing outside Frost Bistro, phone pressed to his ear, visibly furious. Rashida stayed silent, but insiders said she'd locked herself in her office, refusing to film until she knew what was true. Meanwhile, Jock himself went live from his car, sweat glistening on his forehead as he stammered through his words. "I don't know what's going on," he said. "Whoever's trying to drag my family in this, you gon' regret it." But fans weren't buying it. The leaked paper looked official, and a second image began circulating online, showing what appeared to be a notarized signature and a date less than 2 weeks old. Suddenly, everyone wanted answers. Was Jasmine secretly related to Jock's mother's side? Was the Frost drama only half the story? And most importantly, who sent the papers? And why now? One anonymous Instagram page claimed to know the truth, posting a cryptic caption under a photo of the DNA report. She was never supposed to find out, but someone made sure she did. That one post sparked a storm. Castmates started picking sides. Carly Red hinted she'd known something for years. Spice reposted a broken heart emoji. Even Yandy commented, "Lord have mercy," under a gossip clip. Atlanta's entertainment circle was in chaos. By evening, paparazzi caught Jasmine arriving at a testing center, her face hidden under sunglasses, clutching a brown folder. Kirk's car was spotted parked across the street. Fans outside recorded everything, two figures arguing behind tinted windows, voices raised, gestures sharp. No one could hear the words, but one phrase was caught through the glass. It was supposed to stay buried. And that's when people realized this wasn't just about a test. This was about legacy, money, and a secret that could rewrite Atlanta's most talked about love triangle forever. The only question left was, whose hands had delivered that envelope to Jasmine's door? And what did they stand to gain by blowing up to families at once? Let me tell you what really went down last night, because Atlanta is spinning right now. After that DNA paper dropped, Jasmine couldn't sleep. She said her phone kept buzzing all night. People she hadn't heard from in years, suddenly calling, pretending to check in. But she knew what they wanted. Everyone wanted to know if it was true. By sunrise, she was sitting on her balcony, hair tied up, scrolling through hundreds of comments, calling her Jasmine Robinson. She laughed at first, then stopped when she saw young Jock's face trending beside hers. The caption said, "New cousins or old lovers." That hit different. Jasmine grabbed her phone and texted Jock directly. "We need to talk," she wrote. No emojis, no punctuation, just that line. He didn't answer for 2 hours, then finally replied, "Meet me at the shop." She pulled up around noon, wearing black shades and a denim jacket, cameras already waiting. Jock stood by his car, shaking his head. "You see what they're doing?" he said as she stepped out. "This is crazy." "Jasmine," she crossed her arms. "Then tell me why your name on that DNA paper." She shot back. People around started recording, pretending to mind their own business. Jock looked nervous. "Look, I don't know who sent that, but I swear it ain't what you think." She stared at him, quiet for a moment, then asked, "So you saying it's fake?" Jock hesitated. "I'm saying somebody trying to stir up something old. Maybe they digging into your mama's side, or my daddy's. But I ain't never heard nothing like that." Jasmine didn't respond. She just turned and walked back to her car. Fans said you could see the tears under her glasses when she drove off. By that evening, word had already reached Kirk and Rashida. Kirk was furious, saying the story was manufactured drama. He called his team, told them to trace the leak. If that document came from any lab connected to me, I'll sue, he said. But Rashida wasn't convinced. One insider told reporters. She asked Kirk, why is Jock's name even connected to Jasmine's paperwork? Kirk didn't answer. He just walked away. That silence told her everything she needed to know. Meanwhile, Carly Red was enjoying every second of it. She went live while doing her makeup, saying, "It's always the DNA that bring truth to light." Comments flooded in, some laughing, some dragging her for stirring the pot. But Carly didn't care. She hinted that she'd overheard a weird family conversation between Jock's aunt and Jasmine's cousin years ago. When fans begged for details, she smiled and said, "I'll let the truth reveal itself." At the same time, producers from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta were already drafting an emergency storyline. This kind of chaos meant ratings, and they weren't going to miss the moment. A crew showed up outside Jasmine's building the next morning. One of them said she looked exhausted but agreed to talk off camera. "They want to paint me like I'm crazy again," she said quietly, "but I'm not making this up." Jasmine's best friend Tasha came by later that day, with coffee and a plan. "We need to find that lab," she said. "If it's real, we'll prove it. If it's fake, we'll expose who made it." Jasmine nodded. For the first time since the envelope appeared, she looked determined instead of scared. She called the number listed on the DNA paper. No answer. The second time, someone picked up, but as soon as she said her name, they hung up. Hours later, a blocked number texted her, "Stop asking questions. You're getting too close." Jasmine froze. She showed the message to Tasha, who immediately started recording the screen. "See, this means somebody really hiding something," Tasha said. Jasmine exhaled slowly. "Then we keep digging." That night, she posted a single photo on Instagram, just the corner of the DNA paper. The word truth written across it in bold letters. Within minutes, it went viral again. Fans commented things like "expose them, sis and ATL not ready for this one." Even Spice dropped a fire emoji under the post. But one comment stood out. From Jock's verified account, it said simply, "Be careful what you wish for." That one line broke the internet. People thought it sounded like a threat. Gossip blogs called it an open declaration of war. Jasmine didn't delete it. Instead, she replied, "I'm not scared of the truth." The comments section exploded, thousands of fans debating whether this was family drama or something deeper. Someone claimed to have screenshots of Jock's old Facebook posts, mentioning a woman with Jasmine's last name. Others swore they found a distant link between Jock's grandmother and Jasmine's late uncle. By midnight, Kirk went live for the first time in weeks. He said, "This whole situation is out of control. People playing games with DNA now." His tone was cold, controlled, but fans noticed Rashida's voice in the background saying, "Games don't make results." The live ended right after that. Later that night, cameras caught Jock driving to a gated community on the north side. Insiders said that's where his older cousin, Renee Robinson, lived, a woman known for staying out of the spotlight. A neighbor claimed Jock stayed there for over an hour. When he left, he looked pale, shaken. The next morning, Jasmine received an email with no subject line and just one attachment, a scanned family record from the Robinson archives. The top of the page read Family Registry 89. Beneath that were names. One of them was Jasmine Washington. She dropped her phone. Her hands started trembling. She called Jock again, voice shaking. "You knew, didn't you?" she said when he picked up. Jock's voice cracked. "I didn't know it was you," he whispered. "I swear I didn't." And that's where everything shifted. Jasmine wasn't angry anymore. She was confused, lost. "So what are we then?" she asked softly. Jock didn't answer. The silence on the line said more than words ever could. Somewhere across town, Kirk was pacing in his office, staring at a printed copy of the same registry, realizing the secret that tied them all together was never meant to surface. Fans say from that night forward, nobody in Atlanta looked at the Frost Circle the same way again. Every reunion, every interview, every smile, they all suddenly looked rehearsed. And if you listen closely, you can hear the cracks forming. Because this was just the beginning. The next morning started with thunder rumbling over Atlanta, as if the sky itself was warning that something ugly was about to surface. Jasmine sat on her couch with the family registry spread out before her. The paper slightly crumpled from how tightly she'd been holding it all night. She hadn't slept. Her phone buzzed every few minutes, friends checking in, bloggers offering exclusive interviews, even one producer from a talk show dangling payment for her side of the story. But she ignored all of it. She kept staring at one name near the bottom of that page. Clarence Robinson. Beside it, written faintly in ink that had almost faded, was the word deceased. Jasmine had never heard that name before, yet something about it felt familiar. Tasha came over again around 10, bringing food that neither of them touched. She noticed Jasmine's expression and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." Jasmine nodded slowly. "Maybe I have," she murmured. She turned the paper toward Tasha. "Look at this name. I found an old photo album my mama left behind. Guess who's in there? This same man." Tasha's eyes widened. "So that's proof." Jasmine hesitated. "Not exactly, but it's something." Meanwhile, Jock was having his own sleepless night. He'd gone through old family photos too, digging through boxes in his aunt's attic. There it was, a picture of his grandmother holding a baby next to a woman he didn't recognize. When he flipped the photo over, the back read, "Mildred and baby Jasmine, 1992. His hands went cold. That was nearly 30 years ago. He immediately called his Aunt Renee again, his voice shaking. "Why is Jasmine's name in our pictures?" he demanded. She sighed heavily. "Because your uncle made mistakes," she said. "And now those mistakes are knocking on the door." Jock couldn't breathe for a moment. "Are you saying Jasmine's family?" he asked. Renee didn't answer directly. "There are things your grandmother made us promise not to talk about. You weren't supposed to know. She wanted to protect both families." He rubbed his forehead, pacing. "Protect them from what?" She hesitated again. "From Kirk," she finally whispered. Across town, Rashida was watching the same chaos unfold online. She had told herself she wouldn't get involved, but deep down, she couldn't stop scrolling. She saw Jasmine's new post, a blurry photo of an old letter stamped with the Robinson family seal. The caption said, "Blood tells no lies." Rashida's stomach turned. She looked over at Kirk, who was sitting silently on the couch, phone in hand. "You knew, didn't you?" she asked softly. Kirk didn't move. "What do you mean?" he muttered. "Don't play dumb," she said, voice trembling. "You've been around Jock's people long enough to know something like this could blow up." Kirk finally looked up. "It's not what you think." Rashida folded her arms. "Then tell me what it is before I start thinking it's worse." He stood, rubbing his temples. "Years ago, when I first started working with Jock's uncle on some business deal, I heard rumors about a baby, a situation. I didn't think it mattered. I didn't even know Jasmine back then." Rashida's voice sharpened. "So you heard rumors about her before you ever met her, and you still acted like she was some random girl who just showed up in our lives?" Kirk didn't reply. She shook her head, tears forming. "You let me fight that girl for years, humiliate myself on TV. And now I find out she might actually be related to someone you've been working with. You kept that quiet." Before Kirk could explain, his phone buzzed with a call from Jock. He answered hesitantly. "Man, we need to talk," Jock said. "It's deeper than any of us thought." Kirk's tone went cold. "You better not be trying to pin this on me." Jock replied, "I ain't pinning nothing, but that DNA test didn't just appear. Somebody wanted Jasmine to see it. And the only people who'd benefit from that are the ones who want us all exposed." That night, they met at an empty studio in Midtown Neutral Ground. Rashida came too, refusing to stay behind. Jasmine showed up last, walking in with Tasha by her side and the DNA paper clutched in her hand. Everyone was silent for a few seconds, the air thick with tension. Jock was the first to speak. "I talked to my aunt. She confirmed there's a family connection. Not no distant cousin type thing either. Real bloodline." Jasmine blinked, her lips parted slightly. Kirk looked like he'd swallowed glass. Rashida's eyes filled with disbelief. "So what does that mean? That everything we thought we knew was a lie?" "It means somebody wanted it to stay buried," Jock said. "And we all been living around it like it wasn't there." Jasmine spoke next, her voice breaking. "Why now though? Why send this to me after all these years?" No one answered. She slammed the paper on the table. "Somebody wanted to break me again. But this time, I'm not going down quiet." Rashida finally stepped forward. "We all deserve to know the truth. If this involves our families, we're not hiding it anymore." Kirk frowned. "You don't know what you're saying. Some things are better left alone. And that's exactly why we're all in this mess," she snapped. "Because everybody keeps quiet." The argument grew louder. Tasha started recording, saying, "If they try to twist the story, we'll have proof." Jock waved his hands. "Turn that off. This ain't for the internet." But it was too late. Someone had already leaked the address of their meeting, and within 20 minutes, paparazzi were waiting outside. Flashes lit up the room through the blinds. Voices shouted from the street. "Jock, Jasmine, Kirk, tell us the truth." Inside, Jasmine whispered, "This ain't coincidence. Somebody's feeding them." Kirk looked at Jock. You the one with cameras following you everywhere? Jock glared back. Don't start pointing fingers at me. Rashida raised her voice. Enough. This isn't about cameras. It's about family. That word, family, hung heavy in the air. Nobody said another word for a while. Jasmine finally sat down, trembling. So we're blood, she said softly. And all this time, we've been enemies on TV. Jock's voice lowered. It's messed up, but we can't change what's real. She looked up at him, eyes glassy. You ever wonder if maybe that's why everything felt so wrong between us? Why we couldn't ever figure out what it was? He nodded. Yeah, maybe we always felt something. Just didn't know what it meant. They all sat there for a long minute, each of them realizing how deep this had gone. Outside, reporters shouted questions, the world waiting for someone to finally speak. Inside, the truth sat on the table, quiet and undeniable. What none of them knew was that while they argued, someone else was watching. A man in a dark sedan across the street, holding a camera with a zoom lens. He wasn't paparazzi. He was the same person who had sent the first DNA envelope. And in his glove compartment was another one, still sealed, still stamped with a name none of them expected to see next. The following morning, Jasmine woke up to chaos again. Her phone had hundreds of notifications. Videos from last night's confrontation had leaked. Someone outside the studio had recorded their voices through the window, catching just enough of the argument to send social media into a frenzy. Clips of Jasmine yelling, "We're blood. We're everywhere," edited with dramatic music and captions like "Love and hip-hop's darkest secret exposed." Her face was plastered all over blogs, and every gossip site had a new theory. Some claimed she was Jock's half-sister, others swore she was Kirk's long-lost cousin. Every version made the story worse. Jasmine scrolled for a few seconds before throwing her phone on the couch. She sat there in silence, her mind racing. How did it leak that fast? She whispered. Tasha looked up from her own phone. Somebody inside that building recorded us, she said. Maybe one of the producers. They always chasing clicks. Jasmine rubbed her temples. If they think they can turn my pain into ratings again, they got another thing coming. Meanwhile, Jock was facing his own nightmare. His manager had called him at dawn, furious. We already lost 2 endorsements, he said. The network's nervous. They don't want no incest rumors floating around. Jock groaned. Man, I didn't even do nothing wrong. The manager snapped back. Wrong don't matter. Perception matters. And right now, the internet think you've been out here flirting with your own blood. Jock slammed his phone shut. I'm done hiding. I'm going to find out who sent that first letter. He drove straight to his Aunt Renee's house again, this time not knocking before walking in. Tell me everything, he said, his voice low but sharp. She looked startled. Boy, you losing your mind barging in like that. He threw the printed registry on her table. You knew. You been new. Renee sighed deeply. Fine, your Uncle Clarence made mistakes in the 80s. He had a child with a woman outside the marriage somewhere around South Atlanta. Your grandma found out, but instead of letting it ruin the family, she paid them off. That woman was Jasmine's mama. Jock stepped back, his stomach dropping. So Jasmine's my cousin. Renee nodded slowly. Your second cousin? Yes, but her mama changed her last name to keep her away from the Robinson side. She didn't want the drama. So who's sending this stuff now? Jock demanded. Renee shook her head. That part I don't know, but I can tell you one thing, your uncle left behind papers nobody ever saw. If those got into the wrong hands, anyone could use them to blow everything up. Around the same time, Kirk was sitting in his office at Frost Bistro, scrolling through an email that had no subject line, just like Jasmine's. Attached was a blurry photo of himself, Jock, and an older man at a charity event years ago. Under the picture was a message. The past always returns. Kirk frowned. What the hell is this? He muttered. He called Jock, but it went to voicemail. He called Rashida, but she didn't answer either. When he finally stepped outside, a reporter was waiting, shouting, Kirk, are you covering up a family scandal? Kirk clenched his jaw, pushed past them, and got into his car. By that evening, the city felt like a movie set. Everyone from bloggers to former cast members was weighing in. Spice went live saying, I told y'all long time ATL, too small for all these secrets. Carly Red did an interview, grinning, saying, see, people call me messy. But I just see the truth before everybody else. Fans kept tagging Jasmine under every post, begging for confirmation. But Jasmine wasn't online. She had driven to the south side, back to her mother's old neighborhood. She stood in front of a small house with peeling paint and a broken porch light. An old neighbor recognized her instantly. You must be Lydia's daughter, the woman said. Jasmine nodded, her throat tight. You knew her. The woman smiled faintly. Baby, your mama used to babysit Jock when he was little. He was always running around here with them Robinson boys. Jasmine froze. So it's true, she whispered. When she got back to her car, she found a plain envelope tucked under the windshield wiper. She looked around, no one was there. She opened it carefully. Inside was another DNA result, this time not hers. It listed Clarence Robinson and Kirk Frost. The percentage was 99.9. Her heart nearly stopped. No, she breathed. No way. She called Kirk immediately. We need to talk now. Kirk hesitated, but her tone left no room for argument. They met at a quiet diner outside the city. Jasmine slid the paper across the table. Kirk's hands trembled as he read it. This can't be real, he muttered. It says you're Clarence's son, Jasmine said quietly. Kirk looked up, his face pale. Clarence Robinson was Jock's uncle. That would mean, Jasmine finished the sentence for him, that would mean you and Jock are blood too. The diner fell silent. Even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to stop. Kirk sat back, shaking his head. This is insane. Who's doing this? Jasmine leaned forward. Maybe whoever you've been hiding from. He frowned. You don't know what you're talking about. She met his eyes. Don't I? Every time a secret comes out, your name's always in the middle. He opened his mouth to respond, but then his phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. You can't hide what was written in blood. Attached was a video clip, grainy footage of Kirk arguing with an older man years ago. The man's voice was faint, but you could make out one line. You owe me for keeping her out of the family. Kirk's blood ran cold. Jasmine snatched the phone, replaying the clip. Who is that? She asked. Kirk whispered. Clarence Robinson. Meanwhile, back in the city, Jock was calling everyone he knew, trying to track down where the DNA envelopes were coming from. A friend in law enforcement finally texted him, a Ladon old testing facility that shut down years ago, but still had access to genetic databases. Someone's using old records. The text read, looks like personal data breach from 2019. Jock drove there immediately. The building was half abandoned, windows broken, graffiti covering the walls. Inside, dust covered everything except one desk where a single laptop still glowed. A folder on the screen was labeled Robinson_Frost. He clicked it open, and dozens of scanned documents appeared, birth certificates, photos, even signed letters. The last file made his heart stop. It was a video recorded just months ago. Clarence Robinson, old and frail, sat in a hospital bed saying, if they ever find this, tell Jasmine the truth. She was never supposed to pay for our mistakes. Outside, a car engine started. Jock turned toward the window just in time to see someone speeding away. He ran out, shouting, hey, but the car disappeared into the night. He pulled out his phone and called Jasmine. I found where it started, he said breathlessly, and whoever's behind this, they still watching us. Jasmine didn't answer right away. She was staring at Kirk, who was still pale and silent. You hear that? She said. It's not over. Somebody out there knows every secret both of you ever kept. Kirk looked up, his voice low. Then we better find them before they destroy all of us. But it was already too late. Outside the diner, the same black sedan sat idling again, camera lens aimed straight at their table. The person inside hit record. The footage was clear this time, and the next morning, the headline would say everything. Frost and Jasmine caught meeting after DNA revelation. What are they hiding? By sunrise, Atlanta was wide awake again, but not because of traffic or work. Everyone was glued to their phones. The diner footage had leaked overnight, showing Kirk and Jasmine sitting across from each other with papers spread out between them. One blogger slowed the clip down and claimed you could see Kirk's lips saying the words Clarence Robinson. That was enough to set the internet on fire. Hashtags like #FamilySecrets, #FrostBloodline, and #JOC and Jasmine trended all at once. Rashida saw it first thing in the morning. She sat at her kitchen counter, staring at the screen with her coffee untouched. Kirk hadn't come home the night before, and now there he was all over the blogs. The caption under one video read, Rashida's worst fears confirmed. She slammed her phone on the table. I'm done, she said under her breath. Her assistant walked in a few minutes later, nervous. You might want to stay off Instagram today, she said. Rashida laughed bitterly. Too late for that. Meanwhile, Jasmine's apartment was surrounded by reporters. She stayed inside with the blinds closed, pacing the floor. Tasha tried to calm her down, but Jasmine was beyond that. They think I planned this, she said, voice cracking. They think I leaked that video. Tasha shook her head. They'll always blame the woman, but if Kirk's sitting there looking guilty, that's on him. Jasmine stopped pacing and stared out the window. No, she said quietly. Whoever's leaking this, they're coming for all of us. And they won't stop until somebody breaks. Across town, Jock met with his lawyer. I want to file a complaint, he said. Somebody's stealing family records, DNA info, everything. The lawyer looked grim. That's not just somebody. That's a whole system. These documents were stored in an encrypted archive. Whoever got them has access to private lab data. That's organized. Jock leaned back. So it's not personal. The lawyer shrugged. With you people, it's always personal. While the world speculated, one person was silent. Renee Robinson. She hadn't answered Jock's calls since his visit. When he finally drove back to her house, the door was unlocked. Her phone was still on the table, screen lit. On it was a message draft that had never been sent. They found the letters. Tell Jasmine before it's too late. Jock's heart started racing. He looked around the living room, no sign of her. Only a single photo frame left on the counter, showing young Clarence Robinson holding a baby wrapped in a pink blanket. Behind it, taped to the back, was a folded piece of paper. Jock pulled it off carefully and unfolded it. It was a list of names: Clarence, Kirk, Jasmine, and one more he didn't expect. R. Frost. He froze. That was Rashida. What? He whispered. He looked again. Under Rashida's name, written faintly, were the words adopted cousin. The sound of a car pulling up outside made him jump. He looked out the window. Black sedan again. Before he could react, a knock hit the door. Mr. Robinson. A man's voice called. Jock didn't answer. He slipped out the back door and ran to his car, gripping the note tightly. He drove straight to Rashida's boutique, ignoring every red light on the way. When he arrived, security tried to stop him, but she heard his voice and told them to let him in. What now, Jock? She snapped, her tone cold. He handed her the paper. You need to see this. Rashida frowned, unfolding it. Her face went pale as she read her own name. This don't make no sense, she whispered. Jock said, You ever hear anything about being adopted? Or about Clarence Robinson? She shook her head slowly. No, my mama never talked about no Robinsons. She said we didn't have family in Atlanta. Before they could say another word, Kirk burst through the door. His face was flushed, eyes wild. Who told you to meet with her? He barked at Jock. Man, I'm trying to fix this, Jock said. Kirk slammed his fist on the counter. You fixing nothing but your own mess. Rashida stepped between them. Enough. This isn't about business or image anymore. This is blood. And if what he's saying is true, then you lied to me my whole life. Kirk stopped moving. Rashida, you don't understand. No, you don't understand, she shouted back. I've stood by you through everything. Cheating, scandals, lies. And now you mean to tell me there's a chance we might all be connected through some hidden family line you never mentioned? The tension was suffocating. Jock ran a hand down his face. Look, arguing won't fix this. I found out Renee's missing. Somebody's taking people out of the picture. Both Kirk and Rashida froze. Missing? Kirk asked. Jock nodded. Her phone was still at the house. She left a message saying they found the letters. That's when Kirk's phone rang. An unknown number again. He hesitated before answering. A distorted voice came through. You all had your chance to tell the truth. Now the city will know. Then the line went dead. A second later, every phone in the room buzzed with the same notification. An anonymous post on social media with the caption, The Real Frost Family Tree. It contained images of birth records, DNA papers, and a photo of Clarence Robinson labeled the father of them all. The internet went wild again. Headlines popped up instantly. Massive Atlanta family scandal connects multiple reality stars. Kirk dropped his phone. Rashida covered her mouth in disbelief. Jock just stared at the floor. They really did it, he said quietly. They dropped everything. Meanwhile, Jasmine watched it unfold from her apartment. Her eyes filled with tears as she scrolled through the evidence. Every secret, every test, every name now public. They ruined me, she whispered. Tasha grabbed her shoulders. No, baby, they ruined themselves. But Jasmine knew better. This wasn't over. She could feel it. Her phone buzzed one last time that night with a text from an unknown number. Clarence wasn't the only one with secrets. Check the safe under your mother's old house. She looked at Tasha, whispering, I think they want me to find something. Tasha grabbed her keys. Then let's go get it. As they drove off into the night, a security camera caught their car leaving the complex. Across town, in the same black sedan, the mysterious watcher made another note on a clipboard. Phase 2, in progress. Rain poured over the south side as Jasmine's car rolled slowly down the narrow street, toward her late mother's old house. The same porch light still flickered weakly, and the smell of wet soil filled the air. Tasha gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles pale. You sure about this? She asked quietly. Jasmine nodded, her eyes fixed on the house. They sent me that message for a reason. If Mama left something here, I need to see it myself. The door creaked open just like she remembered, that soft groan that used to scare her as a child. The house was empty now, but the air still felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. Jasmine turned on her phone flashlight and walked through the narrow hallway, her heart pounding with every step. Tasha followed, whispering, "Where's the safe supposed to be?" Jasmine pointed to the floor beneath the living room rug. "Under here. Mama told me once, she said if anything ever happens, I should come back for what's hidden." They lifted the rug, revealing a small metal hatch, rusted at the edges. Jasmine's hands trembled as she twisted the lock open. Inside, wrapped in a plastic bag, was a brown leather folder. She pulled it out and laid it on the dusty table. The first paper inside was dated 1990, a birth record. The name at the top read Rashida W. Robinson. Jasmine's eyes widened. "Oh my God," she breathed. "It's true." Tasha leaned over her shoulder, whispering, "That means Rashida's part of it too." Jasmine flipped through the rest. Old letters, photos, even one handwritten note from her mother that said, "For Jasmine when you're ready for the truth." Jasmine opened it carefully. Her mother's familiar cursive filled the page. "Jasmine, you were never meant to live in secrets. Clarence Robinson was my first love. I left because the family wanted me gone. They said the Robinson name had too much power in Atlanta, and anyone tied to it would be watched. They gave me money to disappear, but I kept one thing, a promise that one day, you'd know who you are. If you're reading this, it means the storm has started again. Trust no one with the last name Frost." Jasmine's throat tightened. She sat back in silence, the sound of rain hitting the windows louder than ever. Tasha whispered, "So Kirk knew." Jasmine nodded slowly. "He had to. And if he didn't, somebody close to him did." At that same moment, Kirk and Rashida were at the Frost house, arguing so loud the neighbors could hear. "You've been lying to me for years," Rashida shouted, tears streaming down her face. Kirk ran his hand through his hair, pacing. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." She scoffed. "That's the same thing." He turned toward her, his voice breaking. "I found out years ago. Clarence told me before he died that there was another child tied to the Robinsons. I didn't know it was Jasmine. I swear. So you just thought you'd keep it quiet while she showed up on our show. Turned our marriage upside down, and you sat there like it was just business." Rashida's voice cracked. "You let me look crazy." Kirk slammed his fist on the table. "I was trying to protect you," she shouted back. "From what, Kirk?" "The truth." Just then, Jock called again. Kirk ignored it, but Rashida snatched the phone and answered. "Where's Renee?" Jock's voice was rough. "Still missing. But I think I found out who's been behind this whole thing. The data breach, the leaks, it's someone close to us. Someone from production." Kirk froze. "You mean the show?" Jock said. "Yeah. I traced the files back to a server the network used for story archives. Somebody's pulling personal info and dropping it online." Rashida's stomach dropped. "So they're using our real lives for Jock exhaled sharply. "Not just storylines. They're blackmailing." Meanwhile, Jasmine and Tasha were still in the old house, spreading the papers out across the table. Tasha picked up one envelope sealed with wax. Inside was an old contract between Frost Management LLC and Robinson Holdings. Jasmine's eyes narrowed. "So Kirk and Clarence worked together even before the show," Tasha said. "Maybe that's why Kirk was so quick to shut you down when you came around. He knew this could connect back to him." They heard a noise outside, gravel crunching under tires. Tasha peeked through the curtain. "That black car again," she whispered. Jasmine's chest tightened. "They followed us." She quickly grabbed the papers, shoving them into her bag. "We gotta go." But before they could reach the door, headlights flashed through the window and a man's voice shouted, "Jasmine, we just want to talk." Tasha whispered, "Who is that?" Jasmine stayed silent. "Get in the car," she said under her breath. They ran out the back, splashing through puddles toward the alley behind them. Footsteps echoed. The man yelled again, "You can't hide forever. The truth already belongs to us." They jumped into the car, hearts pounding, speeding off into the rain. Jasmine's hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped the keys. "They're not just reporters," she said. "They're working for whoever's leaking everything." While they raced through the night, Jock met Kirk again, this time in private. "No cameras, no phones. We gotta end this before somebody gets hurt," Jock said. Kirk looked worn down, dark circles under his eyes. "Too late for that," he muttered. "They already got us where they want us." Jock frowned. "Who's they?" Kirk sighed. "Clarence wasn't the only one. There was another investor, someone who funded the show's early seasons. He had ties to the Robinson family, to me, to everyone. His name's Milton Reeves. Jock blinked. The network exec. Kirk nodded. Yeah, and he's the one who's been keeping these records for years. As he said it, his phone buzzed again with another anonymous message. Thank you for confirming everything. The finale writes itself. He looked up, horrified. They're turning this into content, he said quietly. Jock's jaw tightened. Then we burn it down before they air it. Back on the south side, Jasmine's car skidded to a stop outside an old storage building. They ducked inside to catch their breath. Jasmine pulled the folder from her bag, spreading everything out again. This isn't about TV anymore, she said. This is about control. They built an empire on our names. Tasha stared at her. So what do we do? Jasmine wiped her face, her expression changing from fear to resolve. We fight back. With the truth. On camera. As thunder rolled in the distance, she picked up her phone and hit record. This is Jasmine Washington, she began. And everything you've heard is real, but not in the way they want you to think. They've been filming us like lab rats for years. But the real story isn't who's related to who, it's who's been watching. Outside, the black sedan idled again, camera pointed directly at the storage unit door. The red recording light blinked, steady and bright, as the screen captured Jasmine's trembling but defiant face. What neither she nor Tasha realized was that this video, once uploaded, would ignite the biggest scandal reality television had ever seen, and that the person behind the lens wasn't done yet, because Phase 3 was about to begin. Rain still fell when Jasmine's video went live at 3:42 a.m. The upload was unplanned. Raw, shaky, filmed in a dim storage room with a single light flickering above her. Within 20 minutes, it had 10,000 views. By sunrise, it had over 1 million. Clips of Jasmine saying they've been watching us spread like wildfire. Bloggers called it the confession that broke Atlanta. Fans dissected every frame, slowing the footage to analyze the reflection behind her, someone tall, standing in the shadows, unseen until that moment. By noon, every major entertainment outlet had picked it up. The headlines grew bolder by the hour. Jasmine leaks footage of secret reality TV surveillance network. Kirk and Rashida under investigation for hidden family dealings. And Love and Hip Hop expose sparks FBI interest. The chaos was complete. Tasha sat beside Jasmine, scrolling through the reactions. Girl, they treating this like Watergate, she said softly. Jasmine barely looked up. Good, she whispered, because I'm not stopping now. Across town, Kirk slammed his laptop shut. She lost her damn mind, he muttered. Rashida stood near the window, her arms folded tight. No, she said. She just did what you were too scared to do. Kirk spun around. You think this helps anybody? They're digging into our taxes now. Our deals, our families. This could ruin everything. Rashida turned to him slowly. Maybe everything needed to be ruined. Meanwhile, Jock was at a downtown hotel, meeting a contact who claimed to have more footage. The man slid a flash drive across the table. This came from the same server your show used for its raw footage. It's bigger than you think. Jock plugged it into his laptop and opened the file. There were hundreds of unseen clips, behind-the-scenes footage, private conversations, and one folder titled Project Route. He opened it, and what he saw made his stomach drop. In the video, producers were sitting in a dark control room, monitoring multiple live camera feeds, some from the show, some from hidden cameras installed in cast members' homes, studios, and even cars. One voice said, "The Robinson line's confirmed. Keep the leaks steady. Public sympathy will build the season finale." Another replied, "And if it gets out?" The first voice laughed. "We own the story now. Truth's just another script." Jock shut the laptop, face pale. "They've been filming us illegally," he whispered. The contact nodded. "And not just you. Anyone tied to that family tree? You, Kirk, Jasmine, even Rashida." He called Jasmine immediately. "Don't go anywhere," he said. "I found something you need to see." She hesitated. "You sure it's safe?" he replied. "Not even close." By the time he arrived at the storage unit, Jasmine and Tasha were already packing the papers again. The air smelled like damp concrete and adrenaline. Jock handed her the flash drive. "Watch this." Jasmine plugged it into her laptop. As the footage played, her face went still. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness, but anger. "They used us," she whispered. "Every fight, every breakup, every scandal, they planned it." Tasha said quietly, "This is bigger than a show. This is a setup." Jasmine nodded. "Then we take it to the police." Jock shook his head. "You think they ain't paid off already?" "No, we need to make it louder. We leak it ourselves." That night, Jasmine uploaded another video, this time with clips from Project Route. She blurred some names but left enough to make it clear who was responsible. "You've been watching us live a lie," she said in the voiceover. "But we were never the actors. We were the evidence." Within hours, chaos returned. The network denied everything. Lawyers issued statements calling the footage heavily doctored, but fans weren't buying it. Hashtags like #ProjectRoot and #TheTruthIs filming trended across the country. Other cast members started speaking out, Spice Carly, and even Erica. One by one, they confirmed strange incidents: microphones left on after filming, hidden cameras in trailers, private phone calls mysteriously leaking online. At Frost Bistro, reporters camped outside. Kirk tried to sneak through the back but got caught. "Mr. Frost, is it true the DNA scandal was fabricated by producers?" one shouted. Kirk snapped, "You people don't know what's real anymore." The clip went viral in minutes. Behind the scenes, Milton Reeves, the network exec Kirk had mentioned, was panicking. In his downtown office, he watched Jasmine's video on mute, his jaw tight. His assistant said, "Sir, do you want us to take legal action?" He shook his head. "Too late for that. We need to control the ending." Meanwhile, Rashida was at home packing a suitcase. When Kirk walked in, she didn't even look up. "You leaving?" he asked. She nodded. "I'm done being part of this." Kirk stepped closer. "So you just gonna walk away?" She zipped the bag. "I gave this family everything, Kirk. All I got back were secrets." She paused at the door. "When the truth comes out, don't call me." Hours later, Jasmine received a call from an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "You don't know me," the voice said, "but I worked with Milton. I was there when they edited your DNA footage. Meet me at Peachtree Plaza tonight. Rooftop, come alone." The line went dead. Tasha begged her not to go. "This sounds like a trap," she said. Jasmine shook her head. "It's the only way to end this." She grabbed her jacket and the folder. The rooftop was empty, except for the sound of wind and rain. Jasmine stood near the ledge, scanning the shadows. Then a figure stepped forward. It was Milton Reeves himself. "You should have stayed quiet," he said calmly. "You think the truth makes you free. The truth ruins people." Jasmine glared. "You ruined us, years ago. You turned our lives into scripts." Milton smiled faintly. "And you played your part beautifully." He reached into his coat, pulling out a small envelope. "This is what you really want. The final piece." He tossed it onto the wet concrete. Jasmine stared at it. "What is this?" "Proof," he said. "But it comes with a price." She bent down, picked it up, and opened it. Inside was a photo: Clarence Robinson holding a newborn. Behind him stood Kirk, years younger, smiling proudly. Written on the back were 4 words. The deal was family. Jasmine's knees almost gave out. "So you knew him," she whispered. Milton stepped closer. Kirk wasn't just his business partner. He was his successor. "Everything you uncovered, he signed off on it." Before she could speak, headlights flashed across the rooftop. The black sedan pulled up once more. 2 men stepped out, faces hidden. Milton smirked. "You wanted to be the star of the finale. Here it is." But before the men could reach her, another car screeched in behind them. Jock and Tasha jumped out. "Get in," Jock yelled. Jasmine ran. Milton shouted, "You can't run from the network." As they sped off into the night, Jasmine clutched the photo in her hand, tears mixing with rain. "We have to end this," she said. Jock nodded. "Then we end it live." At 10 p.m., Jasmine started one final broadcast from an undisclosed location. "They made us characters," she said, voice steady. "But this story belongs to us now." Behind her, the screen flickered with footage from Project Rutra, undeniable evidence. Millions watched in silence. For the first time, the reality show had no script. The cameras weren't hidden anymore, and every secret they'd buried for decades was finally burning in the open. Atlanta didn't sleep that night, because everyone knew this was just the beginning of the reckoning. The live stream didn't end, it crashed. Halfway through Jasmine's final words, the video feed froze, the image glitching into black before cutting to static. Millions of viewers flooded the comments with confusion and panic. "They took her down," one wrote. "The network shut it off." Others swore they saw something in the last frame, a reflection of flashing blue lights behind her. The faint sound of someone shouting her name. 20 minutes later, every major gossip site was flooded with headlines. Jasmine Washington's live broadcast interrupted, location unknown. Fans began tracking her last known coordinates from the IP leak that surfaced in the stream's metadata. The address pointed somewhere deep on the edge of Atlanta's industrial district, near the abandoned soundstage where the first season of the show had once been filmed. By dawn, police scanners picked up reports of a fire in the same area. Cell footage showed plumes of smoke rising from the soundstage roof, sirens wailing. People gathered behind barricades, chanting Jasmine's name, waiting for news. But no one came out. Inside the burned-out building, the air was thick with smoke and the smell of melted wires. The black sedan sat abandoned near the entrance, its plates removed. Firefighters found a phone among the ashes, screen cracked, cameras still recording. The last clip was only 6 seconds long. Jasmine's voice whispering, "If you're watching this, it means they found me. But it's not over. Look for the real." By noon, the real became the internet's new obsession. Every fan, every blogger, every hacker was digging for clues. What was she talking about? A video? Another leak? Some even believed Jasmine had scheduled a timed upload before her disappearance. Across the city, Kirk and Jock were holed up in a rented apartment, blinds closed, both men looking years older overnight. "You think she's dead?" Jock asked quietly. Kirk stared at the TV. "She's smarter than that," he said. "If she said there's a real, then there's a real." Rashida, who had been silent for days, finally broke it that afternoon. She went live on her own channel, sitting in her boutique with no makeup, no filter, just exhaustion in her voice. "I've been quiet too long," she said, "but I can't stay silent anymore. Jasmine was right, something's been wrong since the start. I saw things on set that didn't make sense. Hidden contracts, cameras rolling when we weren't filming, edits that made us look like villains. I don't know if she's alive, but if she is, I'm standing with her." The comments exploded with support. Fans flooded the network's pages, demanding answers. Hashtags like #WhereIsJasmine and #ReleaseTheReal trended globally. Sponsors pulled out. The network lost millions overnight. At 5:14 p.m., an anonymous account uploaded a link to a hidden site on the dark web. The page was blank except for one phrase: "Truth plays at midnight." Beneath it was a countdown timer. When midnight hit, the site went live. The real was real. It began with raw behind-the-scenes footage of Milton Reeves in his office, discussing family control clauses. Another clip showed Kirk signing documents that tied the Frost and Robinson estates together under one corporation. Then came the part that silenced everyone, an unreleased reunion special, where Jasmine confronted the producers months before any of this began. "You can't fake DNA," she said, slamming a paper on the table. "If this goes public, you'll lose everything." The producer laughed and replied, "We already own it, Jasmine. Even your truth belongs to us." The reel ended with a shaky clip of Jasmine standing outside the network building at night. "They think they can erase me," she said, looking straight into the lens. "But I was never their character. I was their evidence." Then the screen went black. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all crashed within minutes from the surge. The next morning, government officials announced an investigation into the network's practices. Producers were questioned, contracts were seized, and Milton Reeves vanished. Jock and Rashida met privately days later, away from cameras. "You think she's gone for good?" he asked. Rashida shook her head. "She left a trail. She wanted us to keep going." Kirk wasn't there. He'd been called in for questioning about forged business records found in his office. 2 weeks passed before anyone heard her name again. Then, one night, a music video dropped from an anonymous YouTube channel titled "Truth Never Dies." The visuals were grainy, haunting. Shadows moved across city lights while Jasmine's voice spoke over faint piano music. "They wanted silence. I gave them history. Every secret buried in this city will rise, because Atlanta remembers its own." The video ended with a final shot of a woman walking through a crowded street, who'd pulled over her head, camera tilting just enough to catch the edge of her smile. Fans froze the frame, zoomed in, slowed it down. And even though no one could confirm it, everyone swore it was her. From that night on, sightings started surfacing. Gas stations, airports, hotel lobbies. Always blurry, always just out of reach. But each one carried the same whisper: "Jasmine's alive." The network tried to move on. They canceled every remaining show under the Robinson Frost umbrella and filed for bankruptcy within months. Kirk retreated from the public eye completely. Rashida launched a podcast called Real Truth, Not Reality. Jock went independent, using his platform to advocate for transparency in entertainment. But for those who'd been there from the beginning, the story never really ended. Every few months, a new file, a new clip, a new whisper would appear online under the same tag, #TheRealContinues. And somewhere out there, in a quiet apartment far from Atlanta's lights, a woman with familiar eyes watched it all unfold. She turned off her laptop, smiled faintly, and whispered to herself, "They wanted drama. I gave them history." Then she disappeared from the screen again, this time, by choice. Months passed before Atlanta began to breathe again. The city had quieted, but not healed. The Frost Bistro never reopened. The old soundstage, where so much of the chaos began, was sealed off with metal fencing and police tape. Still, people came, fans, vloggers, even ghost hunters, hoping to catch some echo of the scandal that had changed everything. One night, a new flyer appeared across Midtown. No logo, no sponsor, just plain white paper taped to walls, light poles, and bus stops. It said only, "The real returns live in Atlanta." Nobody knew if it was a prank, a film, or Jasmine herself. But within hours, the internet was buzzing again. Rumors claimed a production company had been quietly filming for months under a different name. Others said Jasmine had struck a secret deal to reclaim her story and tell it on her own terms. Rashida saw one of the flyers on her way out of her boutique. She froze. "No," she whispered, pulling it down and folding it in her hand. She called Jock. "You seen this?" He sighed. "Yeah, it's all over the city. Looks like she's back." 2 days later, invitations began appearing in inboxes of cast members, journalists, and even former producers. Each email came from an anonymous address. The subject line read, "You still think you know the story?" The message body contained only a date, a time, and coordinates somewhere near the edge of the city, where the old production lots used to stand. The night arrived warm and still. The air carried that restless energy Atlanta always had before something big. Hundreds showed up, some with cameras, others just curious. Police tried to block off the area, but the crowd pushed through. Drawn by the giant projection screen that flickered to life in the middle of the abandoned lot, a single image appeared first: Jasmine, sitting in a chair against a dark backdrop, her hair pulled back, her expression calm, almost regal. The audience gasped. She wasn't missing. She wasn't gone. She was in control. "If you're here," she began, her voice echoing through the speakers, "then you already lived through our story once. But what you saw was a version written by them. Tonight, you'll see the real one." Behind her, the screen shifted to unseen footage, scenes of cast meetings, private arguments, contracts signed in back rooms. Then came clips of the hidden cameras being installed, producers laughing as they planned how to manipulate. Jasmine's narration cut through every image. "They told us we were entertainment," she said. "They told us we were replaceable. But the truth was they needed us to keep the illusion alive. Every lie they sold built their empire, and every truth we hid paid for it." In the crowd, people were silent. Even Jock looked stunned. Rashida covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. "She really did it," she whispered. The final clip was different. It showed Jasmine standing outside the network's main office, holding the same folder she'd once found under her mother's floor. "This," she said, raising it toward the camera, "isn't revenge. It's release. Because no one owns the truth, not even the people who filmed it." As the lights faded, the screen went black for several seconds. Then a final message appeared. "Project Root is over. The real belongs to the people." The crowd erupted, cheers, screams, phones flashing everywhere. Reporters rushed to upload the footage, but Jasmine herself was nowhere to be found. She had pre-recorded the entire broadcast and vanished again before it even began. By morning, every news outlet called it the end of reality TV as we knew it. Networks canceled half their unscripted shows. Congressional hearings were announced to investigate producer manipulation and data theft. Jasmine's expos had triggered a national reckoning. Kirk, who had avoided public life since the downfall, was spotted quietly leaving town. Someone caught him at the airport, looking older, thinner, carrying one suitcase. He refused to answer questions. When a reporter yelled, "Do you blame Jasmine?" he just said, "She did what I couldn't." Rashida turned her boutique into a women's resource center. Jock started a foundation for young creators, teaching them about contracts and ownership. Fans noticed he never once used the phrase love and hip-hop again. And somewhere across the ocean, in a small villa by the water, a woman in a white sundress sat at a table with a camera, recording her voice one last time. To everyone who watched, Jasmine said softly, "You were part of it too." Every click, every comment, every share it gave life to their lie. "But now you've seen how the machine works. So if you ever tell your own story, make sure you own it." She smiled faintly, the sound of waves breaking behind her. "This isn't the end of the reel. It's just the beginning of real." The camera lingered for a few seconds more, catching her glance toward the horizon. Then the screen faded to black, no credits, no logos, just silence. And that's how Jasmine Washington closed her story, by disappearing again. Not as a headline, not as a scandal, but as a woman who finally rewrote her own script. Weeks passed, and Atlanta settled into an uneasy calm. The scandal had burned itself out, leaving behind the ashes of careers, contracts, and an entire industry that no longer knew where fiction ended and truth began. But even after Jasmine's final message, her name refused to fade. It hovered in conversations, whispered in studios and coffee shops, spoken with both fear and admiration. People wanted to believe she was gone. Others swore she was still moving in silence, working under aliases, gathering footage for something even bigger. Journalists called it the Jasmine effect, the wave of creators exposing exploitation across entertainment. Every network executive dreaded hearing her name. Then, one morning, the Frost family name returned to the headlines again. Kirk Frost was found in his old office, surrounded by burned papers and files. No one knew if he'd been trying to destroy evidence or save it. What they did find was a small flash drive labeled Reel 2. Inside it were hours of unseen footage, recordings of Jasmine's earliest interviews, her first appearance on the show, even rehearsals that had never aired. In one clip, a young Jasmine sat under bright studio lights while a producer off camera coached her on what to say. "Look straight into the lens," he told her. "Say it like you mean it. Make them love you or hate you. Just don't make them forget you." She smiled shyly and said, "What if I tell the truth instead?" He laughed. "Truth doesn't sell, Jasmine. Drama does." That footage went viral instantly. The internet saw the moment it all began. The instant Jasmine stopped being a person and became a storyline. Fans flooded social media with tributes calling her the woman who broke the fourth wall of reality. Rashida watched the clip from her office, tears in her eyes. "She was just a kid," she whispered. Her assistant said quietly, "She changed everything though." Rashida nodded. "Yeah, she did." Across town, Jock opened his foundation's first media center. On the wall behind him hung a framed still from Jasmine's last broadcast, the one where she said, "We were never their characters." At the ribbon cutting, reporters asked him if he believed she'd ever come back. Jock smiled slightly. "She never left," he said. "As long as we keep telling the truth, she's here." Meanwhile, on a quiet beach far away, Jasmine lived anonymously, working as a documentary editor under a false name. She'd cut her hair short, wore simple clothes, and never spoke about Atlanta. But sometimes, late at night, she'd open her laptop and watch clips of her old life, her mother's house, the faces of people she once loved, the chaos she'd escaped. She didn't regret it. She only regretted not realizing sooner how deep the machine ran. One evening, while editing footage for a small independent film, her inbox pinged. The sender was unknown. The subject line said, "We found the missing piece." Inside was a short video attachment. She hesitated before opening it. The screen showed an empty studio, dusty, dark. Then, a projector flickered on, revealing a wall of names written in chalk. At the bottom was a fresh edition. J. Washington original file. Her hand froze on the mouse. Whoever had sent this knew exactly where she was and what she'd done. The next morning, she packed a small bag, leaving her rented apartment without telling anyone. She moved through the airport unnoticed, just another traveler boarding a plane. Her seat was by the window. She stared out as the clouds swallowed the skyline, whispering under her breath, "They still think they own me." But this time, she had a plan. 3 months later, an anonymous documentary premiered quietly at an independent film festival in New York. Number credits. No introduction. It was called Behind the Reel. The opening scene was simple. Jasmine's voice narrating over black and white clips of old production sets and empty streets. "They built a world out of our chaos," she said. "And when we stopped performing, they fell apart." This film isn't revenge, it's record. For every person who ever signed away their truth for a storyline, this one's for you. As the credits rolled, the audience sat in silence before rising to a standing ovation. Journalists rushed backstage, but there was no director, no producers, just a single note left on the podium. Truth doesn't need a face. Over the following months, Behind the Reel spread like wildfire, winning awards, sparking conversations in universities, and reshaping laws about reality television and privacy. Networks were forced to release contracts, expose manipulation tactics, and reform their filming practices. The empire Jasmine had destroyed could never rebuild itself the same way again. And though no one ever saw her in person, her influence lingered everywhere, on every camera, in every negotiation, in every creator who finally learned to say no. Some swore they saw her once outside a film studio in Paris, walking quietly with a camera in hand. Others said she'd moved to Ghana, working on a series about forgotten artists. Nobody ever proved it. But one rainy night, a new anonymous upload appeared on the same account that once leaked the reel. The video showed waves crashing on a beach. A woman's voice spoke softly. "You can erase faces, delete files, burn contracts, but you can't kill truth. It always finds the lens again. And that was all. No hashtags, no drama, no more noise. Just Jasmine's voice echoing like a ghost through the very system that once tried to own her. A year later, Atlanta had changed. The city's skyline glittered brighter than before, but something about it felt different, more watchful, more aware. The old Frost Bistro had been remodeled into a co-working studio for young creators. A mural covered the outer wall, Jasmine's silhouette in grayscale. A quote beside it reading, "Truth filmed itself when no one was watching." Tourists took photos there daily. Locals left candles and flowers. Rashida walked by often, quietly, usually alone. She didn't make speeches anymore. She didn't film interviews. She just stood for a while, then left without saying a word. Sometimes she saw young women taking selfies with the mural and overheard them say, "That's the girl who changed the game." And she would smile faintly, thinking, "No, she saved it." The entertainment industry tried to rebuild itself. New networks promised authentic storytelling. Contracts now included transparency clauses named the Washington Amendments. For the first time in reality TV history, cast members owned their raw footage rights. Lawyers said it was the Jasmine Clause. But even with progress, the air in Atlanta still carried her shadow. Every few months, new uploads surfaced from untraceable accounts, short films, each marked with a small watermark, JW Reel Series. They appeared without warning, each showing something different. One was a close-up of raindrops on studio windows. Another showed an empty director's chair with a single mic swinging in silence. The third, the most viral, opened on a dimly lit hallway lined with framed portraits of producers and cast members. One by one, each frame cracked. The caption read, "Stories break when they're real." No one could prove it was Jasmine, but everyone believed it. Jock had moved on, at least publicly. He hosted a radio show where he discussed the future of real media, giving young artists advice on ownership and independence. Listeners said that sometimes, when the studio was quiet, you could hear him pause mid-sentence, as if waiting for someone to call in from a blocked number. One night, it happened. During a late segment, his producer handed him a note. "Line 3 says her name's Jay." Jock hesitated. "Patch her through." Static filled the speakers. Then a calm, steady voice said, "You still watching the truth, Jock?" He froze. The audience didn't know, but everyone in the studio went silent. "Is that," he began, but the voice cut in. "The story's not over. Not yet." Then the line went dead. The next morning, fans clipped the moment and flooded the internet. The waveform of her voice alone was enough to send the city spiraling again. Hashtags returned, hashtag Jasmine lives, hashtag the real continues, hashtag Jay speaks. Some thought it was staged, a promo for another documentary. Others believed she was signaling her next move. 2 weeks later, invitations arrived again. This time, digital, no addresses, only coordinates that changed hourly. The message was simple: the final CUT, one night only. When the night came, people gathered at hundreds of small independent theaters across the world, not knowing what they'd see. At exactly midnight, the screens flickered on at once. The film opened with static, then a familiar voice. Jasmine's. "A story never ends when it changes people," she said. This is the footage they couldn't erase. The scenes that followed weren't glamorous. They were quiet families cooking, kids filming short videos on old phones, people laughing without direction or cameras hidden nearby. Life unscripted. The film ended with Jasmine walking along a coastline at dusk, holding a small camera. She turned it toward herself. "They made me a product," she said. "So I became a producer. Not for them, for you. You don't need permission to tell your truth, just the courage to press record." Then she smiled, the same faint smile from years before, and the screen faded to black. When the credits rolled, there was no studio name, no copyright notice, no contact link, just one sentence written in white over black: "The reel is yours now." People sat in silence for minutes before clapping. Many cried. Others simply stood, recording the empty screen on their phones, as if saving proof of a ghost. In the days that followed, more footage from the final cut appeared online, each clip posted from random accounts across continents. It was clear Jasmine had released it to the public herself. She didn't want ownership anymore, she wanted the story to belong to everyone. And after that, there were no more uploads, no more sightings. Her last known trace was a grainy still image from a security camera in Lisbon, a woman in a loose jacket, carrying a small camera bag, boarding a ferry at sunrise. The photo spread everywhere. Under it, someone commented, "She's not hiding, she's filming." And that's how the world remembered Jasmine Washington, not as a scandal, not as a mystery, but as the woman who turned a fake show into the most real story ever told. A year after the final cut, the noise had faded. No new uploads, no hidden accounts, no cryptic messages. The world moved on, or at least pretended to. Atlanta rebuilt its industry under new faces, new titles, and new promises of transparency. Yet everywhere on film sets, in editing rooms, in the silence between takes there was still that unspoken name, Jasmine Washington. Rashida had grown quieter with time. She no longer chased headlines or press tours. Instead, she ran a mentoring studio for even rehearsals that had never aired. In one clip, a young Jasmine sat under bright studio lights while a producer off-camera coached her on what to say. "Look straight into the lens," he told her. "Say it like you mean it. Make them love you or hate you. Just don't make them forget you." She smiled shyly and said, "What if I tell the truth instead?" He laughed. "Truth doesn't sell, Jasmine. Drama does." That footage went viral instantly. The internet saw the moment it all began. The instant Jasmine stopped being a person and became a storyline. Fans flooded social media with tributes calling her the woman who broke the fourth wall of reality. Rashida watched the clip from her office, tears in her eyes. "She was just a kid," she whispered. Her assistant said quietly, "She changed everything though." Rashida nodded. "Yeah, she did." Across town, Jock opened his foundation's first media center. On the wall behind him hung a framed still from Jasmine's last broadcast, the one where she said, "We were never their characters." At the ribbon cutting, reporters asked him if he believed she'd ever come back. Jock smiled slightly. "She never left," he said. "As long as we keep telling the truth, she's here." Meanwhile, on a quiet beach far away, Jasmine lived anonymously, working as a documentary editor under a false name. She'd cut her hair short, wore simple clothes, and never spoke about Atlanta. But sometimes, late at night, she'd open her laptop and watch clips of her old life, her mother's house, the faces of people she once loved, the chaos she'd escaped. She didn't regret it. She only regretted not realizing sooner how deep the machine ran. One evening, while editing footage for a small independent film, her inbox pinged. The sender was unknown. The subject line said, "We found the missing piece." Inside was a short video attachment. She hesitated before opening it. The screen showed an empty studio, dusty, dark. Then, a projector flickered on, revealing a wall of names written in chalk. At the bottom was a fresh edition. J. Washington original file. Her hand froze on the mouse. Whoever had sent this knew exactly where she was and what she'd done. The next morning, she packed a small bag, leaving her rented apartment without telling anyone. She moved through the airport unnoticed, just another traveler boarding a plane. Her seat was by the window. She stared out as the clouds swallowed the skyline, whispering under her breath, "They still think they own me." But this time, she had a plan. 3 months later, an anonymous documentary premiered quietly at an independent film festival in New York. Number credits. No introduction. It was called Behind the Reel. The opening scene was simple. Jasmine's voice narrating over black and white clips of old production sets and empty streets. "They built a world out of our chaos," she said. "And when we stopped performing, they fell apart." This film isn't revenge, it's record. For every person who ever signed away their truth for a storyline, this one's for you. As the credits rolled, the audience sat in silence before rising to a standing ovation. Journalists rushed backstage, but there was no director, no producers, just a single note left on the podium. Truth doesn't need a face. Over the following months, Behind the Reel spread like wildfire, winning awards, sparking conversations in universities, and reshaping laws about reality television and privacy. Networks were forced to release contracts, expose manipulation tactics, and reform their filming practices. The empire Jasmine had destroyed could never rebuild itself the same way again. And though no one ever saw her in person, her influence lingered everywhere, on every camera, in every negotiation, in every creator who finally learned to say no. Some swore they saw her once outside a film studio in Paris, walking quietly with a camera in hand. Others said she'd moved to Ghana, working on a series about forgotten artists. Nobody ever proved it. But one rainy night, a new anonymous upload appeared on the same account that once leaked the reel. The video showed waves crashing on a beach. A woman's voice spoke softly. "You can erase faces, delete files, burn contracts, but you can't kill truth. It always finds the lens again." And that was all. No hashtags, no drama, no more noise. Just Jasmine's voice echoing like a ghost through the very system that once tried to own her. A year later, Atlanta had changed. The city's skyline glittered brighter than before. but something about it felt different, more watchful, more aware. The old Frost Bistro had been remodeled into a co-working studio for young creators. A mural covered the outer wall, Jasmine's silhouette in grayscale. A quote beside it reading, "Truth filmed itself when no one was watching." Tourists took photos there daily. Locals left candles and flowers. Rashida walked by often, quietly, usually alone. She didn't make speeches anymore. She didn't film interviews. She just stood for a while, then left without saying a word. Sometimes she saw young women taking selfies with the mural and overheard them say, "That's the girl who changed the game." And she would smile faintly, thinking, "No, she saved it." The entertainment industry tried to rebuild itself. New networks promised authentic storytelling. Contracts now included transparency clauses named the Washington Amendments. For the first time in reality TV history, cast members owned their raw footage rights. Lawyers said it was the Jasmine Clause. But even with progress, the air in Atlanta still carried her shadow. Every few months, new uploads surfaced from untraceable accounts, short films, each marked with a small watermark, JW Reel Series. They appeared without warning, each showing something different. One was a close-up of raindrops on studio windows. Another showed an empty director's chair with a single mic swinging in silence. The third, the most viral, opened on a dimly lit hallway lined with framed portraits of producers and cast members. One by one, each frame cracked. The caption read, "Stories break when they're real." No one could prove it was Jasmine, but everyone believed it. Jock had moved on, at least publicly. He hosted a radio show where he discussed the future of real media, giving young artists advice on ownership and independence. Listeners said that sometimes, when the studio was quiet, you could hear him pause mid-sentence, as if waiting for someone to call in from a blocked number. One night, it happened. During a late segment, his producer handed him a note. "Line 3 says her name's Jay." Jock hesitated. "Patch her through." Static filled the speakers. Then a calm, steady voice said, "You still watching the truth, Jock?" He froze. The audience didn't know, but everyone in the studio went silent. "Is that," he began, but the voice cut in. "The story's not over. Not yet." Then the line went dead. The next morning, fans clipped the moment and flooded the internet. The waveform of her voice alone was enough to send the city spiraling again. Hashtags returned, hashtag Jasmine lives, hashtag the real continues, hashtag Jay speaks. Some thought it was staged, a promo for another documentary. Others believed she was signaling her next move. 2 weeks later, invitations arrived again. This time, digital, no addresses, only coordinates that changed hourly. The message was simple: the final CUT, one night only. When the night came, people gathered at hundreds of small independent theaters across the world, not knowing what they'd see. At exactly midnight, the screens flickered on at once. The film opened with static, then a familiar voice. "Jasmine's. A story never ends when it changes people," she said. "This is the footage they couldn't erase." The scenes that followed weren't glamorous. They were quiet families cooking, kids filming short videos on old phones, people laughing without direction or cameras hidden nearby. Life unscripted. The film ended with Jasmine walking along a coastline at dusk, holding a small camera. She turned it toward herself. "They made me a product," she said. "So I became a producer. Not for them, for you. You don't need permission to tell your truth, just the courage to press record." Then she smiled, the same faint smile from years before, and the screen faded to black. When the credits rolled, there was no studio name, no copyright notice, no contact link, just one sentence written in white over black: "The reel is yours now." People sat in silence for minutes before clapping. Many cried. Others simply stood, recording the empty screen on their phones, as if saving proof of a ghost. In the days that followed, more footage from the final cut appeared online, each clip posted from random accounts across continents. It was clear Jasmine had released it to the public herself. She didn't want ownership anymore, she wanted the story to belong to everyone. And after that, there were no more uploads, no more sightings. Her last known trace was a grainy still image from a security camera in Lisbon, a woman in a loose jacket, carrying a small camera bag, boarding a ferry at sunrise. The photo spread everywhere. Under it, someone commented, "She's not hiding, she's filming." And that's how the world remembered Jasmine Washington, not as a scandal, not as a mystery, but as the woman who turned a fake show into the most real story ever told. A year after the final cut, the noise had faded. No new uploads, no hidden accounts, no cryptic messages. The world moved on, or at least pretended to. Atlanta rebuilt its industry under new faces, new titles, and new promises of transparency. Yet everywhere on film sets, in editing rooms, in the silence between takes there was still that unspoken name, Jasmine Washington. Rashida had grown quieter with time. She no longer chased headlines or press tours. Instead, she ran a mentoring studio for